What happens when the Prince of Pop turns his eyes toward the kings of K-pop? Welcome back, pop culture detectives. We all know Justin Bieber and BTS share massive mutual respect. But what if JB secretly observed the inner dynamics of the Magnificent Seven? Rumors swirl about a highly confidential list where Justin supposedly ranked the BTS members based on their royal aura toward one another. Who acts like the ultimate protector? Who carries the elegance of a modern-day prince? And who commands the room without even speaking a single word? Is the youngest reigning supreme? Or does the brilliant leader take the crown of chivalry? We are diving deep into this spectacular, mind-blowing ranking. Are you ready to find out who sits on the ultimate throne of brotherhood? Keep your eyes glued to the screen because the answers might just shock you. Number 7. RM, the wise guardian and unspoken sovereign. When Justin Bieber allegedly took a microscopic look into the internal chemistry of BTS, he did not just see a world-conquering pop band, he saw an intricate court where every single member holds a distinct form of royalty toward one another. And kicking off our countdown at number 7 is none other than the colossal leader himself, Kim Namjoon, known globally as RM. Now, you might be asking yourself, why on earth would Justin place the ultimate leader of the world's biggest musical act and number 7, rather than right on the top throne? The answer lies in a fascinating paradox of regal dynamics. True royal authority toward your peers isn't about demanding worship from others, but rather about the selfless, stoic, and noble dignity a king displays when serving his own court. RM's royal essence toward his 6 brothers is defined by intellectual grace, intense emotional protection, and an absolute sacrifice of his own ego for the safety and elevation of his team. Think back to 2010, when a young underground teenage rapper named Runch Randa stepped into big hit entertainment as the very foundational pillar around which CEO Bang Si-hyuk decided to build BTS. Remember the famous hidden camera test in 2014, when Bang Si-hyuk asked RM to choose between pursuing a solo career or staying with the struggling, underdog group BTS. Without even a single second of hesitation, RM chose BTS, proving that his loyalty was already fit for royalty before the world even knew his name. Having stepped into the harsh spotlight at just 13 years old himself, Justin Bieber understands better than almost anyone in the music industry the brutal, crushing weight of global fame, which is precisely why he views RM's protective nature toward his members as the ultimate mark of nobility. When BTS shattered historical boundaries and crossed over into the Western music market, navigating high-pressure American talk shows like Jimmy Fallon, James Corden, and The Ellen DeGeneres Show, along with chaotic Grammy Award red carpets, RM stood tall as an unyielding human shield. Armed with an astonishing IQ of 148 and a masterful self-taught command of the English language learned from watching episodes of Friends, RM didn't just act as a simple translator, he acted as a diplomatic guardian, carefully filtering invasive media questions, translating complex emotions, and absorbing all the intense cultural anxiety so that Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook could feel secure, relaxed, and free to shine in their natural element. Imagine the immense psychological burden of bearing that responsibility on world stages, including the iconic podium of the United Nations General Assembly in New York City for their historic Speak Yourself speech, or standing inside the Oval Office of the White House beside President Joe Biden in 2022 to speak out against anti-Asian hate crimes. On each of these momentous occasions, RM made sure that every single member had their dedicated moment at the microphone, physically guiding them forward while he quietly stepped back into the shadows. In Justin's eyes, this behavior mirrors that of a wise, ancient High Chancellor who willingly shoulders the heavy iron weight of the crown so that his beloved royal court can walk without fear or burden. Behind closed doors, away from the roaring crowds of filled-to-capacity stadiums and blinding flashbulbs, RM's real treatment of his brothers is even more profound. During high-stakes album production sessions, where he has amassed over 200 songs under the Korea Music Copyright Association, intense choreography rehearsals, and late-night heart-to-heart discussions shown in raw documentary footage like Burn the Stage, In the Soup, and Bon Voyage, RM never rules with a heavy-handed dictatorial command. Instead, he governs the group's mental space with profound empathy, gentle humility, and infinite
infinite patience, often retreating to nature, art museums, and books to gather wisdom that he then brings back to comfort his bandmates. Remember the heartbreaking honesty of the 2018 Mama Awards in Hong Kong, when the group candidly revealed on stage that they had considered disbanding due to overwhelming mental exhaustion? It was RM's calm, unshakable emotional anchor that held the entire group together, giving his brothers a haven of absolute security when their world felt like it was crumbling around them. He constantly highlights their individual talents in international interviews, tirelessly praising Jin's emotional strength, Suga's genius production, J-Hope's matched work ethic, Jimin's otherworldly grace, V's boundless artistic soul, and Jungkook's golden perfection. His royal nature isn't loud, ostentatious, or demanding of prestige. Rather, it resembles a deep-rooted centuries-old oak tree that quietly provides shelter, shade, and safety to the delicate flowers blooming beneath its branches. Every single time Justin Bieber observes RM standing beside BTS, he sees a man who treats his bandmates not as subordinates or mere colleagues, but as precious royalty, deserving of his endless protection, dedication, and service. This rare, inspiring combination of intellectual power, humble leadership, and unconditional brotherly devotion is why Kim Namjoon establishes the foundation of our list at number 7. But as we move up this extraordinary ranking, the dynamic only grows more mysterious, dramatic, and intensely unexpected. Can a king truly rule without ever putting down his shield, or does his true strength lie in teaching his brothers to rule beside him? Keep watching, because as we ascend to number 6, the courtly bonds take a dark, poetic, and entirely unexpected turn that will leave you absolutely breathless.
Number 6. Suga, the shadow prince of unseen devotion. Stepping into the 6th position of this legendary rumored ranking by the Prince of Pop is a man whose royal aura is so deeply concealed in shadows that it takes a highly trained eye to witness its true magnificent glory. The lyrical genius and silent protector Min Yoongi, universally feared and loved as Suga. When Justin Bieber looks at Suga's dynamic with his bandmates, he doesn't see the flashy traditional royalty that demands attention with a diamond-encrusted crown. Instead, he sees the noble, quiet, and fiercely loyal knight who guards the castle while everyone else is asleep. In the glitzy, loud, and often superficial world of the global music industry, where celebrities constantly perform their affections for the cameras, Suga's brand of royal devotion is incredibly rare because it is entirely action-based, heavily veiled in a stoic, tsundere persona that makes his sudden acts of immense love feel like discovering hidden treasure. Justin, who grew up surrounded by yes-men and loud but empty promises, would instantly recognize and deeply respect Yoongi's silent but absolute commitment to his brothers. Let us rewind to the grueling early days of BTS, back when they were cramped into a tiny, single-room dormitory, struggling to afford basic meals and unsure if they would even survive their debut. It was Suga who sacrificed his own physical and mental well-being, working dangerous part-time delivery jobs just to pay his tuition and buy food for the younger members, resulting in a devastating shoulder injury that he hid for years just so he wouldn't drag the team down. That is not just brotherhood. That is the ultimate sacrifice of a shadow prince giving his very blood and bone for his kingdom. Suga's royal treatment of the other members is characterized by an unspoken, hyper-observant care that operates completely off the radar. Fans who religiously watch behind-the-scenes content like Run BTS or Bangtan Bomb know this phenomenon. Suga is the one who will casually slide a bottle of water to a heavily panting Jimin without even making eye contact, secretly pay for the group's massive dinner bills without saying a word, or stay awake until 4 a.m. in his Genius Lab studio, meticulously producing personalized tracks that perfectly highlight the unique vocal colors of V or Jin. When J-Hope, the sunshine of the group, decided to leave Big Hit during their trainee days, it was a desperate, tearful Jungkook who begged him to stay, but it was the quiet and commanding presence of Suga who went straight to the agency's executives, effectively saving the entire group from collapsing before it even began. In Justin's rumored analysis, Suga embodies the regal elegance of a dark, brooding monarch who refuses to show his soft underbelly to the world, but will absolutely destroy anyone who
who dares to threaten his chosen family. His fierce alter ego August D spits venomous, aggressive rhymes at the haters and the oppressive industry, acting as the impenetrable fortress walls surrounding BTS. Yet inside those walls, he allows his brothers to braid his hair, tease him mercilessly, and drag him into their chaotic games with a fond, gummy smile on his face. He is the anchor that grounds them when the dizzying heights of Billboard #1s and Grammy nominations become too overwhelming. During their emotional festa dinners, it is often Suga who delivers the most brutally honest yet profoundly comforting words, reminding his brothers of their shared pain and their shared glory. He once wrote deeply emotional handwritten letters to V and Jungkook, ending them with the phrase, "I love you," a gesture so entirely out of character for the notoriously reserved rapper that it literally left the younger members in tears of shock and overwhelming gratitude. Justin Bieber, having faced the darkest sides of global fame alone, surely views this silent, unwavering, and brutally protective devotion as the highest form of nobility. Min Yoongi doesn't need to wear a physical crown or announce his love from the rooftops because his every breath, every produced beat, and every quiet sacrifice is a testament to his royal dedication to his 6 brothers. But if the Shadow Prince claims the 6th spot, who on earth possesses a royal aura so blindingly radiant that it pushes them even higher up this mystical hierarchy? Prepare yourselves, because as we cross into the top 5, the dazzling display of brotherhood is about to become dangerously emotional, overflowing with a spectacular warmth that might just melt your heart completely.
Number 5. J-Hope, the radiant Sun King, the ultimate pillar of harmony. Securing the highly coveted 5th position on this mind-blowing mythical ranking by the Prince of Pop is the undisputed heartbeat of BTS, the man who rules not with a heavy iron fist, but with a dazzling, blindingly bright crown of pure golden energy, the phenomenal dance leader and eternal sunshine, Jungkook, universally adored as J-Hope. When Justin Bieber allegedly analyzed the deeply woven interpersonal dynamics of these 7 Korean superstars, he would have instantly recognized a very specific, incredibly exhausting, and deeply noble form of royalty within J-Hope. The royalty of the emotional anchor, the benevolent Sun King who sets aside his own shadows to ensure his entire court is constantly bathed in warmth and light. In the grueling, high-stakes ecosystem of the global pop industry, where egos clash and the pressure of the spotlight can easily fracture even the tightest bonds, maintaining an unconditionally positive, uplifting atmosphere is not just a personality trait, it is a deliberate, heroic sacrifice, and Justin, who has very publicly battled with the agonizing, soul-crushing weight of industry-induced depression and exhaustion, would look at J-Hope's relentless positivity with absolute, awestruck reverence. J-Hope treats his 6 brothers with a level of royal devotion that is built on the foundation of flawless, unconditional emotional support and unwavering discipline when it comes to their legendary choreography. Let us take a journey back to the intense, sweat-drenched dance studios of Big Hit Entertainment, where the raw, unpolished boys of BTS were desperately trying to synchronize their movements to absolute perfection. It was never just the choreographers who led them, it was Jungkook who stood at the front of the mirror, his usually bright, heart-shaped smile instantly replaced by the terrifyingly sharp, eagle-eyed gaze of a true perfectionist. Yet his strictness is never born from arrogance, it is born from a profound, royal love for his members, a desperate desire to ensure that none of them ever look foolish on stage and that the group's legacy remains entirely untouchable. He meticulously checks every single angle, every microscopic foot placement, and every breath they take, gently guiding members like RM and Jin, who initially struggled with the impossibly complex routines, never leaving a single brother behind in the dark. But the moment the music stops, the fierce commander vanishes, and the radiant Sun King returns, instantly rushing to massage their cramped shoulders, wiping their sweat, and showering them with a chorus of hyperactive, mood-boosting
mood-boosting cheers. Fans who dissect every frame of BTS's behind-the-scenes footage know exactly how J-Hope operates as the crucial, irreplaceable bridge between the older Hyung line and the younger Maknae line. He is the essential glue that holds the entire kingdom together. Whenever a member releases a solo project, shoots a music video, or films a grueling individual schedule, you can absolutely guarantee that J-Hope will be the very first person to arrive on set, armed with a massive coffee truck, giant bags of churros, and his iconic booming laugh, perfectly ready to hype his brother up like the ultimate devoted royal cheerleader. Remember when Suga was filming his intense Daechwita music video in the freezing cold? J-Hope magically appeared on set to bring warmth and energy. When Jungkook was nervously shooting his solo stages, J-Hope was right there in the wings, screaming his lungs out in support. He gives his brothers the royal treatment of absolute validation, ensuring that no matter how famous they become, they never, ever feel alone in their individual endeavors. His emotional intelligence is so extraordinarily high that he can instantly read the microscopic shifts in the room's energy. If V is feeling quiet and withdrawn during a chaotic variety show interview, J-Hope will smoothly redirect the camera's attention to him with a gentle, encouraging question. If Jimin is doubting his flawless vocal performance, it is J-Hope who immediately wraps him in a warm embrace and aggressively validates his incredible talent. Justin Bieber understands the isolating, terrifying void of the entertainment industry better than almost anyone alive, and he knows that having a brother like J-Hope, a man who willingly sets himself on fire just to keep his family warm, is a blessing rarer than the most flawless diamond. J-Hope doesn't just treat his members like kings, he treats them like gods of his own personal universe, constantly sacrificing his own resting time to manage their mental landscapes, completely hiding his own exhaustion behind a mask of pure, unadulterated joy so that they don't have to carry his burdens. This breathtaking display of selflessness, this majestic ability to rule the group's emotional harmony with an invisible but deeply felt scepter of love is exactly why the eternal sunshine of BTS gracefully commands the number 5 spot. However, as we continue to climb closer and closer to the ultimate throne, the royal dynamics shift from emotional support to an entirely different, incredibly intense realm of aesthetic elegance and fierce protective charm. Who could possibly outshine the Sun King himself? Which member possesses a regal aura so naturally intoxicating and beautifully dominant that it leaves even the biggest pop star in the world completely mesmerized? Don't you dare look away, because as we tear into number 4, we are about to meet a prince whose visual and emotional power will completely shatter your expectations.
Number 4. Jimin, the angelic black swan, the velvet shield of empathy. Claiming the spectacular 4th position on this completely mind-bending, rumored royal ranking by the Prince of Pop is a man whose sheer existence blurs the very lines between celestial angel and commanding monarch, the breathtakingly graceful, fiercely protective, and endlessly empathetic contemporary dance prodigy of BTS, Park Jimin. When a global superstar like Justin Bieber, who has navigated the incredibly ruthless, hyper-masculine, and often emotionally barren Western music industry, looks at the internal workings of BTS, he would be absolutely mesmerized by the totally unique, intoxicating brand of royalty that Jimin brings to the table, because Jimin's regal power does not come from intimidating authority, financial dominance, or stoic silence, but from a radical, fearless, and overwhelming display of raw vulnerability and boundless affection. In a world that often tells young men to hide their tears, mask their insecurities, and constantly compete for the alpha position, Jimin reigns supreme as the velvet shield of the group, a beautiful prince who rules through the immense, undeniable power of pure, unadulterated emotional intelligence. To truly understand why Jimin sits so high on this phenomenal list and commands such deep respect, we have to travel back in time to the terrifying, uncertain trainee days in Seoul, when a young, slightly chubby boy from Busan, who was at the very top of his class
class at the prestigious Busan High School of Arts, was suddenly thrown into the brutal, cutthroat idol training system where he famously faced the devastating threat of being kicked out of the final debut lineup a staggering 8 times. Instead of becoming bitter, closed off, or fiercely competitive against his fellow struggling trainees to secure his own spot, Jimin channeled all of that grueling, heart-stopping anxiety into becoming the ultimate, indispensable emotional pillar for the rest of the members, effectively transforming himself into the beating heart of the group's immense empathy and brotherhood. His royal treatment of his 6 brothers is absolutely legendary among the global fandom, characterized by a hyper-vigilant, almost telepathic ability to sense exactly when a member is on the absolute brink of an emotional breakdown. Fans who have wept their way through the raw, unfiltered behind-the-scenes footage of the Burn the Stage documentary or the agonizingly emotional finale concerts of the historic Love Yourself Stadium tours know perfectly well that whenever a member is crying on stage, Jimin is instinctively, immediately there, materializing like a guardian angel to wrap them in a desperate, deeply comforting embrace, completely ignoring the thousands of screaming fans and the blinding flash of cameras to ensure his brother feels safe in that exact moment. Remember the iconic, heart-wrenching moment in London when the golden maknae, Jungkook, severely injured his heel right before the massive O2 Arena concert and was forced to sit on a stool in the center of the stage, crying his eyes out in pure frustration and agonizing guilt? It was Jimin who seamlessly broke away from the intense, highly synchronized choreography to sprint across the massive stage, throwing his arms around the youngest member, gently wiping away his tears and making sure the entire world knew that Jungkook's worth was not defined by his physical ability to dance. Justin Bieber, who has unfortunately suffered through massive tour cancellations, intense media scrutiny, and devastating public breakdowns, completely alone in his youth, would look at Jimin's instinctive, fiercely protective nature and see the absolute epitome of a modern, emotionally evolved king who uses his power to heal rather than to conquer. Behind the scenes, away from the glittering confetti and stadium lights, Jimin's devotion takes on an even more beautiful, poetic form, particularly in his legendary, soulmate-level bond with his fellow 1995 liner V, an intricately complex relationship that was so profound it inspired their beautiful, quirky duet track Friends, famously featuring the inside joke about their explosive, passionate argument over a plate of dumplings, the Mandu incident, which ultimately solidified their unbreakable, royal brotherhood. Whenever V retreats into his own eccentric, highly misunderstood artistic universe, Jimin is always the one holding the tether, ensuring V never feels alienated from the rest of the group, and constantly validating his unique perspective. Furthermore, Jimin's relationship with the older members is heavily laced with a deep, respectful adoration that totally subverts the traditional, often rigid Korean age hierarchy. He is the quiet, listening safe haven for RM when the crushing global weight of leadership becomes entirely suffocating, and he is the constant, giggling companion for Jin, deliberately matching the eldest member's chaotic, youthful energy so that Jin never feels embarrassed or out of place in his role. He is even the only one who can consistently melt the icy exterior of the group's resident shadow prince Suga, coaxing out bright smiles and famously sharing the legendary fiery Tony Montana stage that left fans completely speechless. He constantly showers his members with highly personalized, incredibly thoughtful gifts, from custom-made leather jackets to incredibly detailed, handmade birthday cakes that he stays up all night to prepare, proving that his love language is a constant, tangible act of service. But do not ever let this angelic, fairy-like sweetness fool you into thinking Park Jimin is weak, delicate, or purely soft, because the exact moment he steps on the stage, the comforting prince instantly sheds his velvet cloak and transforms into the lethal, commanding black swan, executing gravity-defying contemporary spins, blindingly fast footwork, and intensely powerful hip-hop grooves, with a mesmerizing, magnetic ferocity that demands absolute submission from every single person in the audience. He defends his members' honor with an incredibly sharp, witty tongue during intrusive interviews, and he pushes himself to the absolute physical and vocal limit, often practicing his solo tracks like Lie and Celebricity until he literally collapses on the cold studio floor just to make sure he never ever lets his beloved group down. This breathtaking, unparalleled duality, the unique ability to be the softest, safest, most tender resting place for his brothers' weary souls, and the fiercest, most captivating, breathtakingly beautiful warrior on the global stage, is exactly why the Prince of Pop would undoubtedly rank the ethereal, emotionally transcendent Park Jimin at number 4, proving that true royalty is ultimately about having the unyielding courage to care louder, protect fiercer, and love harder than anyone else in the room. But hold on to the very edge of your seats, pop culture detectives, because as we violently smash our way into the highly anticipated holy trinity of the top 3, the entire definition of K-pop royalty is about to make a massive, heart-stopping turn toward an entirely different, incredibly overwhelming kind of power. Who could possibly manage to outrank the Velvet Shield himself? Which phenomenal member commands the room with such an overwhelming innate aristocratic elegance and deep baritone mystery that even the world's biggest pop star can't help but completely bow down in absolute awe? Keep your eyes wide open and your hearts completely ready, because the next prince on our spectacular list is about to rewrite the entire history of musical royalty.
Number 3, BTS V. The aristocratic enigma, the soulful sovereign of unconditional love. Breaching the elite upper echelon of the sensational, rumored ranking by the Prince of Pop, we arrive at a man whose very existence feels like it was meticulously painted onto a royal canvas by a Renaissance master. The breathtakingly enigmatic, soulful baritone and absolute visual icon of BTS, Kim Taehyung, universally worshipped by millions as V. When Justin Bieber allegedly turned his analytical gaze onto the mysterious inner court of BTS, he was completely spellbound by the sheer, effortless royalty that V radiates, not just toward the mesmerized global audience, but more importantly, in the deeply artistic, intensely loyal, and strangely poetic way he interacts with his 6 brothers. In the high-velocity, hyper-commercialized world of international stardom, where celebrities are constantly pressured to conform to rigid molds and perform manufactured personalities, V stands as an impenetrable, aristocratic fortress of absolute authenticity. A young man who operates entirely on his own unique wavelength and whose royal nature is defined by a deep, unwavering loyalty to those he holds dear. Justin, who spent his own turbulent youth under the constant, microscopic judgment of the global press, where every single quiet moment or nonconformist action was relentlessly branded as cold, detached, or erratic, would profoundly resonate with V's often misunderstood, deeply internal world, recognizing that behind Taehyung's silent, piercing gaze lies a heart of pure, refined gold that offers his bandmates an irreplaceable sanctuary of absolute artistic freedom. To understand the royal hierarchy V holds within BTS, we must look back at his humble beginnings in the rural farmland of Gaochang and Daegu, where he grew up dreaming of being a farmer before his innate artistic calling led him to master the saxophone and eventually audition for big hit entertainment, initially showing up merely to support a friend before the scouts begged him to audition himself. Emerging as the famous secret member who was kept hidden from the public eye until the absolute final moments before BTS's official debut in 2013, V endured the agonizing isolation of watching his brothers interact with fans online while he had to stand in the shadows, a trial by fire that only forged his deep, protective attachment to the group into an unbreakable steel. His royal treatment of his brothers is not expressed through grand, noisy proclamations or traditional hierarchy, but through a deeply aesthetic, emotionally sacred bond that seeks to elevate and cherish every member as a unique work of art. Think about the global cultural phenomenon he single-handedly created in 2016 during a concert, the immortal phrase, "I purple you," or Borarhe, assigning a deep, majestic meaning to the final color of the rainbow as a vow of everlasting trust and mutual affection, a phrase that went on to be embraced by the United Nations, illuminated on global monuments from the Empire State Building to the Burj Khalifa, and became
became the ultimate sacred anthem of love, binding BTS and their army forever. Behind closed doors, V treats his fellow members with an extraordinary, soft-spoken tenderness that completely defies his intense, intimidating stage presence. He is the member who will quietly walk up to a tired, stressed-out Suga in the middle of a chaotic rehearsal just to hold his hand or give him a gentle, grounding hug. The brother, who famously wrote the devastatingly beautiful solo track, Winter Bear, inspired by his deep, nostalgic love for his family and members, and the soulful artist who constantly uses his passion for classic film photography to capture intimate, candid portraits of his brothers when they think no one is watching, preserving their humanity away from the blinding arena spotlights. His profound, soul friendship with Jimin, immortalized in their iconic track, Friends, showcases a royal bond where two completely different personalities balance each other perfectly, with V famously gifting Jimin a stunning custom piece of art and publicly promising to protect him forever, despite their fiery past arguments. Furthermore, V's relationship with the group's oldest member, Jin, showcases an incredible, respectful sweetness, even when they had a rare, intense verbal disagreement right before taking the stage in Chicago during their world tour, a moment captured in all its raw, painful honesty in their documentary. V showed true, high-minded nobility by shedding his pride, sitting down with Jin after the concert, weeping openly as they communicated their hurt, and emerging with an even stronger, more unbreakable bond. When it comes to the youngest, Jungkook, V acts as the ultimate partner in crime and creative soulmate, constantly pulling the golden maknae out of his shell during their early years, encouraging his goofing antics, and creating a safe space where Jungkook could express his raw, unrefined personality without fear of judgment. On stage, Taehyung transforms into a towering, magnetic monarch of pure charisma, commanding millions with a single drop of his dangerously deep baritone voice in tracks like Singularity and Stigma, moving with a mesmerizing theatrical grace that leaves even seasoned industry veterans absolutely breathless. Yet the moment the music fades, the ferocious performer instantly returns to being the sweet, art-loving soul who worries if his brothers have eaten, checks in on their mental well-being with quiet text messages in the dead of night, and brings his beloved dog Yeontan to rehearsals just to bring an instant burst of joy to their exhausted faces. Justin Bieber, having weathered the brutal storms of fame, doubtless views V as the ultimate artistic prince, a man who refuses to let the ruthless, soul-consuming pop machine corrupt his innocent, noble spirit, using his immense power to build a kingdom where love, artistic integrity, and brotherly devotion reigns supreme. This incredible fusion of aristocratic elegance, profound emotional depth, and fierce, quiet loyalty to his team is precisely why Taehyung dominates the third step of our royal podium. But brace yourselves, pop culture detectives, because the final battle for the absolute top of this legendary ranking is now upon us. As we stand on the precipice of the top two, the stakes have never been higher. Who takes the second spot on this jaw-dropping court? Is it the hilarious, noble eldest brother who sacrificed his own ego to protect the group's spirit? Or is it the unstoppable, all-powerful golden prince who holds the ultimate key to the group's heart? Get ready, because number 2 is about to drop an emotional bombshell that will shatter everything you thought you knew.
Number 2, BTS Jin. The noble firstborn, the shield of laughter and absolute sacrifice. Breaking into the impossibly prestigious, highly coveted runner-up position on this spectacular, mind-bending ranking by the Prince of Pop is a man whose royal aura completely rewrites every single traditional rule of hierarchy, power, and authority. The breathtakingly handsome, deeply intelligent, and fiercely selfless eldest brother of BTS, Kim Sek-jin, universally known as Worldwide Handsome Jin. When Justin Bieber allegedly turned his highly trained, analytical gaze toward the internal dynamics of this legendary septet, he was utterly fascinated by the brilliant, deliberate, and emotionally overwhelming sacrifice that Jin makes on a daily basis, a sacrifice that easily earns him the number 2 spot and redefines the very meaning of brotherhood. To truly grasp the majestic, unparalleled royalty of Jin's character, we have to deeply understand the intensely rigid, age-based social hierarchy of South Korean culture, where the eldest member, or the mat-hung, is traditionally given absolute, unquestioned authority and expected to rule the younger members with strict, heavy-handed discipline and silent stoicism. Yet when Kim Sek-jin, a highly educated acting major from the prestigious Konkuk University, who was literally street-cast simply for his jaw-dropping otherworldly good looks while stepping off a bus, was suddenly thrust into a tiny, cramped, deeply impoverished dorm room with 6 terrified, insecure younger teenagers, he made the most brilliantly royal decision in the entire history of K-pop. He completely shattered his own ego, intentionally throwing away his cultural right to demand respect, and instead became the warm, hilarious, easily approachable foundation of absolute equality that allowed BTS to survive their darkest, most desperate days. Justin Bieber, having grown up under the crushing weight of arrogant industry executives and tyrannical management, would look at Jin's deliberate choice to lower himself so his younger brothers could rise and see the ultimate, breathtaking hallmark of a true, enlightened king. Let us rewind to the grueling, hungry pre-debut era of 2012, long before the private jets, the billions of streams, the White House visits, and the sold-out Wembley Stadium concerts, back when big hit entertainment was constantly on the absolute brink of bankruptcy, and the boys were surviving on cheap convenience store ramen. It was the young aristocrat Kim Sek-jin who literally drove back to his family home in Gwacheon to secretly steal expensive, nutritious ingredients, premium meat, and cooking supplies to prepare massive hearty meals for their struggling, exhausted younger brothers, completely funding their physical survival out of his own pocket. He famously drove a severely homesick 15-year-old Jungkook to high school every single morning, buying him meals, attending his parent-teacher conferences, and acting as his surrogate mother and father so the golden maknae wouldn't give up and return to Busan. That is not just basic kindness, that is the fierce, protective grace of a noble firstborn fiercely guarding his royal court with everything he has. But the true, devastatingly beautiful depth of Jin's royal nature lies in the colossal emotional shield he forged for the group through his legendary chaotic humor. Fans who have obsessively watched hundreds of hours of Run BTS and raw documentary footage like Burn the Stage know perfectly well that whenever the atmosphere becomes agonizingly heavy, whenever the crushing, suffocating pressure of global fame threatens to break the group's spirit, or whenever RM is feeling paralyzed by the terrifying weight of his leadership role on foreign soil, it is always Jin who instantly steps up. He willingly sacrifices his dignified worldwide handsome image to scream, tell terrible dad jokes, ajay gags, dramatically fall off his chair, and launch into rapid-fire, breathlessly hilarious rants that instantly shatter the tension and have his 6 brothers crying with laughter. He famously stated, "If I act young, my face will stay young," but the heartbreakingly beautiful truth is that he acts young so his younger brothers never have to feel the intimidating, isolating distance of age. He acts foolish so they never have to feel embarrassed. He plays the ridiculous, lovable clown so that they can comfortably shine as flawless kings. Justin Bieber, knowing exactly how terrifyingly dark, lonely, and depressing the pop industry can get, would instantly recognize Jin's relentlessly loud, unapologetic confidence, not as arrogance, but a deeply calculated, brilliantly executed defense mechanism to absorb the world's negativity and project an impenetrable fortress of pure joy for his members. When BTS was thrust into overwhelming Western media interviews, Jin would purposely blow dramatic kisses to the cameras and crack jokes to completely disarm the intimidating paparazzi, instantly taking the intense psychological pressure of RM's shoulders. Behind closed doors, away from the roaring cameras, the reality of Jin's intense struggle is enough to bring anyone to tears. Entering the group with absolutely zero background in singing or dancing, he was forced to train twice as hard, staying up until dawn in the freezing studio, enduring agonizing physical pain just to keep up with born prodigies like J-Hope and Jimin, all while secretly battling a devastating inferiority complex. He poured all of this hidden agony into his earth-shattering masterpiece, Awake, where he heartbreakingly confessed
that he might never truly fly like the other 6 petals, but he will tightly hold on to them and fiercely fight for them anyway. He later birthed the global healing anthem, Epiphany, teaching millions the absolute necessity of self-love, and bared his exhausted soul an abyss, before finally delivering his breathtaking farewell gift, The Astronaut, co-written with Coldplay, proving that his brothers and his army were his true universe before he bravely became the first member to enlist in the South Korean military. Remember the devastatingly emotional day of his enlistment in late 2022? All 6 brothers rushed to the freezing military base, rubbing his newly buzzed head, leaning on him for comfort, while he stood incredibly strong, completely masking his own fear, just to make sure they wouldn't cry. Whenever his members are crying on stage, Jin rarely cries with them. Instead, he stands as the unshakable, stoic pillar of immense strength, offering a strong, broad shoulder and a comforting silent gaze that says, "I am here, and as long as I am here, you are perfectly safe." This breathtaking, mind-blowing combination of quiet financial and physical sacrifice in the early days, combined with the brilliant, ego-shattering emotional protection he provides as the ultimate shield of laughter, is exactly why the noble firstborn, Kim Sek-jin, absolutely dominates the number 2 spot on this mythical royal list. But hold your breath, pop culture detectives, because we have finally arrived at the absolute zenith, the holy grail, the pinnacle of this breathtaking ranking. If the fiercely protective leader, the silent shadow prince, the blinding sun king, the velvet shield of empathy, the noble enigma, and the noble firstborn have all been placed, who is left to claim the ultimate, undisputed, and incredibly emotional number 1 spot on Justin Bieber's legendary list? The answer is about to completely shatter everything you know and leave you entirely paralyzed with absolute awe.
Number 1. Jungkook. The golden sovereign of pure devotion, the crown jewel of brotherhood. And finally, standing completely uncontested at the absolute peak of this legendary rumored royal ranking by the Prince of Pop, we arrive at the ultimate crown jewel of the group, the unstoppable global force, and the beloved youngest brother who holds the very heart of the entire kingdom in his hands, the phenomenal golden maknae, Jungkook. When Justin Bieber allegedly looked into the deepest, most sacred core of BTS's internal chemistry, there was never any doubt as to who would claim the supreme throne of royal devotion toward his brothers, because Jungkook's relationship with the 6 older members represents the rarest, most beautiful, and emotionally profound bond in modern pop history. He is a king who was literally raised, molded, and protected by 6 other kings, and in return, he treats them not merely as family and bandmates, but as the living, breathing deities of his entire existence. Justin Bieber, who skyrocketed to unprecedented global fame as a child at just 14 years old, completely isolated in the brutal Western music industry without a protective shield of older brothers to guide him, looks at Jungkook with an intense, profound sense of wonder, recognizing that while they both shared the terrifying burden of child stardom, Jungkook was blessed with 6 fierce guardian angels who shielded his soul from being corrupted by the ruthless celebrity machine. Rewind back to 2011, when a tiny, painfully shy 13-year-old boy from Busan with big, innocent round eyes arrived in the intimidating concrete jungle of Seoul, so overcome with social anxiety that he couldn't even shower or sing in front of the other trainees until everyone else had fallen asleep. It was Jin, Suga, J-Hope, RM, Jimin, and V who took this terrified child under their collective wing, cooking his meals, buying his school uniform, driving him to class, and showering him with unconditional love until he blossomed into the most formidable performer on the planet. Because he was raised by them during his most formative developmental years, Jungkook famously and proudly states that he is made entirely out of the combined fragments of his 6 youngs. He swallowed RM's intellectual philosophy, absorbed Suga's quiet resilience, inherited J-Hope's terrifying work ethic and dance perfectionism, embraced V's boundless artistic freedom, and mirrored Jin's self-effacing protective humor. Yet the true, mind-blowing proof of Jungkook's supreme royal status toward his brothers is that despite evolving into an all-powerful, world-dominating global superstar, capable of soloing at the FIFA World Cup opening ceremony in Qatar with Dreamers, shattering global chart records with Seven and his historic Golden album, his humblest, most sacred role remains being the fiercely devoted maknae who would gladly lay down his life for his 6 youngs. Remember the agonizingly raw, heart-shattering confession of his solo song Begin from the Wings album, where the golden youth revealed that he has no personal pain of his own, and that the only thing in this world that can truly break his heart or make him cry is seeing his 6 brothers in physical or emotional pain. When Jungkook fainted from utter exhaustion behind the scenes during the grueling Wings tour in Chile, or when he severely sliced his heel open in London and sat weeping on stage, he wasn't crying because of his own agonizing physical agony. He was crying in absolute devastation because he felt he had failed his youngs and hindered their perfection. On stage, he acts as their ultimate physical wall, executing insanely brutal, bone-crushing choreography with 200% energy every single night, singing flawless live vocals while flying across stadium skies on zip lines, all so that his 6 brothers can look back at their center with absolute unwavering pride and security. Behind closed doors, his royal devotion is pure, selfless service. He washes their dishes, massages their aching muscles after 3-hour stadium shows, carries their heavy luggage, and looks at them with eyes so overflowing with pure, starry-eyed adoration that it leaves millions of fans completely emotional. When the time came for military service, Jungkook did not hesitate to enlist alongside Jimin, ensuring that the group's hiatus would be as short as humanly possible, so they could reunite on stage as 7 kings once again. Justin Bieber undoubtedly sees Jungkook as the absolute ultimate monarch of brotherhood, a young man who was given the world, yet chooses to place his 6 brothers at the very center of his universe, proving that true royalty is not about wearing a crown alone, but about honoring the 6 kings who helped you build your empire.
What a breathtaking, deeply emotional, and truly unforgettable journey through the majestic court of the world's greatest group. From RM's protective leadership to Jungkook's boundless devotion, every single member proves that true royalty isn't defined by wealth or status, but by the unbreakable bond of unconditional love, selflessness, and sacrifice they offered to one another every single day. Whether this rumored ranking by Justin Bieber was a fleeting observation or an unwritten pop culture myth, one absolute truth stands tall above all else. These 7 Korean youths built a global empire, not as solitary competitors, but as an eternal, unified dynasty that will echo through the halls of music history forever. Now, pop culture detectives, it's time for the ultimate question. Do you agree with this mind-blowing hierarchy of brotherly royalty? If you had to crown the single most devoted BTS member in your own heart, who would sit on your supreme throne? Drop your most passionate, emotional thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dive edutainment breakdowns. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep loving, and stay royal.